What does an ordinary mechanic from Ohio do when his truck is stopped by a roaring lion in the middle of the highway? He has no idea that he will become the last hope for the salvation of an entire pride. What happened next made him forget who was human and who was beast. You know those mornings when you just want to disappear into the background? That was me, a 56-year-old grease-stained nobody from Dayton, Ohio, with a back that popped louder than a bag of chips every time I bent over. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for peace. So naturally, I drove straight into the jaws of a full-blown lion standoff. I had just finished patching up a busted irrigation pipe at the nearby wildlife reserve. Pro bono, mind you, because apparently kindness doesn't come with a paycheck these days. The sun was cooking my neck, the radio was broken, and the last thing I expected on that quiet two-lane road was a full-grown lion parked in the middle like he owned the county, not walking, not crossing, just standing dead center in my lane like he was protesting road construction. I hit the brakes so hard my coffee shot up and redecorated the ceiling. "Okay," I muttered, squinting through the windshield. "Either I've lost it, or this guy's got something to say." I stepped out of the truck, hands raised, like that was going to impress a 400-pound predator with murder in his eyeballs. He let out a growl that sounded like a freight train with emotional issues. But here's the kicker. He didn't charge. He just stood there looking straight at me, like I owed him child support or something. Then, without warning, he turned and bolted into the brush. Not a casual stroll, more like a follow me or regret it forever kind of sprint. Now let's get one thing clear. I'm not a runner. My knees click when I sneeze. But something about the way he looked at me, like he needed help, not a meal, made me move. Against every drop of common sense I had left, I followed that lion into the trees like a man who'd officially lost all grip on reality. And then I saw her, a lioness, barely breathing. She was lying on her side in the dirt, ribs shaking like she was holding on to her last thread. And next to her, a cub, a tiny, trembling thing with eyes too big for its face, still slick from birth. The lion, let's call him the muscle, sat beside her, silent now. No growls, no roars, just waiting, watching me. I knelt down, pulled out my emergency water bottle, and gently poured a little near the lioness's mouth. She twitched. Not much, but enough to break my heart clean in half. The cub gave a soft squeak. Probably hungry, probably cold, probably both. I wrapped him in my flannel and looked at the lion, still looming like a furry statue of guilt and grief. "You dragged me out here for them, didn't you?" I said, more to myself than him. He blinked. That was it. No drama. Just that slow, ancient blink like, "Yeah, genius, welcome to the party." I tried my handheld radio, of course dead signal, because when do those things ever work where you actually need them? So I stood there, holding this baby lion in my arms, staring at two massive predators who somehow trusted me more than the world that failed them. "I'll come back," I promised, backing away. "Just don't move her, and don't eat anyone, especially me." My boots were soaked, my lungs burning from the run, and I couldn't stop thinking one stupid thought. Why me? But deep down, I already knew the answer. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds. Now picture this. You're hauling a baby lion wrapped in your flannel like it's a grocery bag with legs, running back through thorny brush while praying you don't trip and become an unfortunate jungle footnote. Yeah, that was me. By the time I made it back to my truck, I was wheezing like an old radiator in a snowstorm. My shirt was soaked, my arms were scratched to ribbons, and the cub was shaking so hard I could feel it through my chest. The worst part? The mother lioness didn't have hours. She didn't even look like she had minutes. So I did the only thing I could. I dumped the cub carefully on the passenger seat, grabbed a beat-up emergency med kit from behind the seat, one of those you'll-never-need-it kits I hadn't touched in 5 years, and sped off toward the ranger outpost like I was late to my own wedding. But the road had other plans. Barely a mile in, I hit the first sign of trouble. Two trucks, not rangers, but some guys in camo with smug faces and rifles, were parked sideways across the road like they were running their own private checkpoint. One of them, tall, broad, and definitely not a Boy Scout, flagged me down with the kind of wave that screamed, "We're in charge here, and you better play along." "Where you headed, old man?" he asked, his voice just a touch too friendly. "Emergency," I replied, not even slowing the engine. "Got a sick cub. Ranger station's 10 minutes out." He didn't move. "Cub, huh? What kind?" "Lion," I said, trying not to glance at the passenger seat. That got their attention. The guy whistled low, and another man stepped up beside him, smirking like he'd just won a bet. "There's not supposed to be any cubs out this way. Regulations say the pride's contained north." "Then maybe somebody forgot to tell the lion," I snapped, gripping the wheel. "Now, if you don't mind, I've got a dying animal and no time to—" He stepped in front of the truck, and I'll be honest. For a second, I thought about just driving straight through. But I'm not the kind of man who solves problems with bumpers, so I killed the engine. "Let's take a look," the second guy said, already heading toward the passenger side. I stepped out fast. "You touch him and I swear—" "Relax," the first one said, his smile tight. "Just making sure you're not up to anything funny. You'd be surprised how much lion fur goes for these days." There it was. That was the moment it clicked. These weren't random hunters or curious park visitors. They were poachers, dressed like weekend warriors but with eyes like cash registers. And now they knew I had what they wanted, and I was alone. My phone, 0 bars, my radio, might as well be a brick. No backup, no signal, no plan. Just me, a trembling lion cub, and two guys who looked ready to add intimidation to their list of hobbies. But I wasn't about to back down. Not after that lion dragged me through the woods begging for help the only way he knew how. "I'm taking this cub to the ranger station," I said, keeping my voice steady. "And if you try to stop me, you better hope your truck's faster than mine." The taller one chuckled. "You're either real brave or real stupid." "Maybe both," I said, climbing back into the truck and locking the door in one smooth move. Then I did what any sensible, desperate man would do. I floored it. The truck jumped forward like it had something to prove, gravel flying like sparks behind me. In the rear view, I saw them scramble, but they weren't fast enough. Not this time. I didn't stop until the ranger station was in sight, old wooden porch and all. When I burst through the door holding that cub like a football, the two stunned rangers looked at me like I'd fallen off a UFO. "Don't just stand there," I barked. "We've got a mother lion dying in the woods and poachers blocking the damn road, and finally, someone listened. This is it. Everything you've been waiting for, it's happening now. Stick around to see how I turned the tables. Let me tell you something. When a grown man kicks open the ranger station door carrying a newborn lion like it's a lost puppy, you'd expect a little urgency. Instead, I got two wide-eyed guys blinking at me like I'd just walked in wearing a tutu. "Are you holding a cub?" one finally asked, like he needed clarification. "Nope," I snapped. "This is a pineapple. Now quit staring and grab your gear. His mother's still out there, and she's not doing well." That got them moving. In less than 5 minutes, we were loaded into an old utility truck that sounded like it hadn't had a proper oil change since the 90s. I gave them directions the best I could. Right past the fork, left at the broken fence, straight into the brush. Every bump felt like a punch to the gut, but the cub was warm and breathing. That was more than I could say about his mother last I saw her. We found the spot faster than I expected, but what we saw stopped us cold. She was gone. Not far, just a few feet from where I left her, but she was upright now, swaying like she'd run a marathon and lost. The male lion, the same one who blocked my truck, who roared like his heart was on fire, was standing guard beside her. His mane was a mess. His eyes were red and tired, but he didn't move. Not an inch. Not until he saw me, and that's when it happened. He roared, loud, deep, a sound that rolled through the trees and shook something loose inside my chest. Not angry, not a warning. It sounded like heartbreak, like gratitude, like both at once. The Rangers froze. "I've worked here 15 years, one muttered. "Never seen anything like this." I stepped forward slowly, holding the cub in my arms. And that lion, that big, bruised survivor, took one step forward, too. Not aggressive, not challenging, just present. We stood like that, man and beast, a few feet apart, both holding on to something fragile. Then I crouched down and placed the cub on the grass. He squeaked. The lioness turned her head, weak but aware. She let out a sound, soft, raspy, and the cub wobbled toward her like a wind-up toy. And just like that, he was home. The lion laid down beside them, like a sentry, like a father, like a creature who'd risked everything just to get help. And somehow, against every natural instinct he had, he trusted me. One of the Rangers finally whispered, "Why did he come to you? Out of all the people, why you?" I didn't have an answer. Maybe it was the smell of engine oil. Maybe it was the fact that I looked like a tired old lion myself. Or maybe, just maybe, he saw something in me I hadn't seen in a long time. Before we left, I turned to look back one last time. That lion watched me go. Didn't growl, didn't move, just blinked, slow and steady, the same way he did when we first met on the road. As if to say, "We're even now, friend." I climbed into the truck, hands still shaking, and when we hit the pavement, I didn't speak for a while. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I wasn't sure I could say it without breaking down. And then it hit me. I wasn't crying because I was scared, or because it was over. I was crying because a lion, a creature born in wild silence, found a way to ask for help, and somehow thought I was the one who'd listen.